Can I finally say the plot of the fourth movie, or what's going on with that? Okay?
Go.
Okay, great. Finally. So, the plot of the fourth movie, it takes place 18 years after the third movie, and baby Caesar, who was switched by the circus owner, has been raised and can talk, but raised to not tell anyone that he can talk. He ends up kind of accidentally revealing this because he gets mad and says, damn dirty human. Spot on Caesar, right?
Yeah.
So...
And Ricardo Montalban is like, yes, that
yeah, he's like, I said it. Me. And so Ricardo
really
Montalban gets
Lousy
killed.
human bastards.
Yes.
Lousy human bastards. Right.
Say it again.
It's
Lousy human bastards.
Okay.
See, it wasn't me.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was not a clip of Ricardo Montalban. That was Derek's once again spot on impression. I'm literally just gonna point to him from now on when I want to do an impersonation. Okay. So then Caesar's all
Lousy human bastards.
no Caesar.
Oh, Caesar? Oh.
Yeah.
Lousy. Oh wait, no, it's not close at all.
How would he? I don't even know how to do Roddy McDowell. Lousy human bastards.
Okay, you're
No,
out.
I'm doing
You're out.
Spanish.
You're done.
I can't stop now.
Okay.
Fuck.
Anyway,
Well,
so
built me up.
like a stereotypical Roddy McDowell impersonation. Like he's kind of doing a different thing.
he makes it more gruff this time. But anyway, Caesar gets captured and is made to be a slave, but leads a rebellion of the apes, and they end up separating from mankind. Basically, if you want to know the plot of this movie, watch the movie Rise of the Planet of the Apes as sort of a modern equivalent. They're somewhat loosely connected, exact same plot. And that's essentially the plot of the fourth one. And I'm briefly going to go over the plot of the fifth one. It takes place, I think, about 12 years after the plots of the fourth one. Caesar is trying to kind of quell an insurrection with this guerrilla guy named Aldo, who wants humans to be completely out of the equation, but Caesar wants to kind of coexist peacefully with humans. So
Well,
he's
but,
got
like,
humans teaching them English and all kind of stuff. And there's like a quarrel between this ape teacher who tells this gorilla guy, Aldo, he says, "No, Aldo, no!" when Aldo's like ripping up another student's work or something.
Well,
and,
it was Cornelius' son's
Yeah.
work. What's his name?
But anyway, so...
So his name is Aldo, right?
No,
The
not...
son?
No, the son is not Aldo.
No,
Aldo
yeah,
is
you're
the
right. I'm
gorilla.
sorry, he's the gorilla, yeah.
Right. But so, apparently in the fifth movie, they have established this rule that apes may tell humans no, but humans may not tell apes no. But this causes like this big internal conflict because Caesar is lenient on the human. He doesn't have him like executed or whatever Aldo is wanting to happen. And so Aldo uses that to kind of funnel his vies for power and things like that. And Caesar goes to the city and mutants see him there and think that he is planning to take over. So they launch an offensive before he can. And then the rest of the movie is just really boring. And that's the plot. No man's hubris in that one.
Well, it was actually like really... Like, basically, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes was kind of a very similar plot line.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty similar.
Those reboots start at 4, and I guess they're just gonna do their own thing.
Yeah, I would argue that Dawn of the Planet of the Apes did it better than Battle for the Planet of the Apes. But for Derek, that wouldn't be saying
No,
much.
it's close. Maybe you're right, but it's not by a lot. I'll when we get to those movies, we'll talk more about our feelings on those. But I wanted to say that I know the year that the fifth one takes place, because it was 12 years after the fourth one, right? Was it 12?
Something like that.
If it's 11 or 12, the fourth one takes place in 1991. I don't know if we said that. And the
oh right,
the plague they
far-flung
mention,
future.
yeah, the plague they mention in the fourth one that wipes out cats and dogs and is the reason that people make apes pets. They're missing all their cuddle monsters. They
That's
decide
the
to
weirdest-
domesticate monkeys for some reason. No, that's why though. And that plague happens apparently in 1983, I think. Then the movie takes place in 91, and then if the fifth one is 11 years later, it's 2002.
Right. I just
Or
want to also
2003
say
if it's
that
12.
that Zira and Cornelius talked about that plague in the third one.
Yeah, and it was
Yeah.
supposed to happen 300 or 400
300 or 400 years in the
later.
future.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
no,
part
it
of
was
the-
supposed to happen not 300 or 400,
I think it was
like
right
two.
before
No, it
Alda.
was supposed to happen 200 years in the future, and then apes
Oh.
are servants for 200 years,
Maybe?
and that's why it's 400
Yeah.
years in the future when Aldo
Which,
finally
why
rises.
did they name the general guy Aldo?
What do you mean in the fifth one?
Yeah.
I think what they were going for was he would have originally been the heir to the ape that started the revolt. So it sets up his
You mean the
character as
ancestor?
being. I'm sorry, yeah. What did I say?
Heir,
Like,
yeah.
ancestor is better. So it's like you're going to be dealing with just knowing his name. If you're a huge fan of Planet of the Apes, I guess when you hear his name, you assume he's going to be like
What-
a combative,
I mean,
like
yeah.
like troublemaker or something, maybe.
But here's an alternate look at it, though, is that, like, this is supposed to have created a new timeline where everything happened earlier, but if you look at it, the original Planet of the Apes had to take place in, like, New Jersey. Yeah. And then when they go back to Earth, they're in San Francisco. So maybe Aldo, although he kind of seems to die, but maybe he didn't die, or maybe his followers survived and went to New Jersey. Yeah, they might have started the city of the Planet of the Apes that we see in the Charlton Heston one. That true. Like maybe the past didn't change, maybe just the people telling the story of the past changed.
Which I want to briefly talk about two theories that we had. Mm-hmm. Okay, so one of the things about the future Planet of the Apes is there's not really any humans in the first Planet of the Apes that are intelligent. They've kind of evolved over the course of the years, but there hasn't seemed to have been a lot of ape development over that time, and possible that the alternate timeline has affected things and things like that. But there also is this question of, okay, so the humans that were on, Caesar's side, what happened to them? And we have a theory that they were sent to the moon to have a secret moon base.
What?
No, wait, I'm going to read this right now because when I wrote down this note, I didn't really go into detail. I named it something stupid and hilarious.
The moon theory?
Moon. Fan theories. Okay, bullet 1. Only whites were enslaved by apes. Rocket moon base society.
Right.
So...
they let black people go to the moon?
Yeah. Only black people, only whites were enslaved in Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, because there's no black people in the original Planet of the Apes. They found the black astronaut so intriguing that they taxidermied him and put him in a museum.
Exactly.
Because he was probably, he's
probably the first one they ever saw. Exactly.
And it was the black guy who helped Caesar.
Exactly. So they sent them to the moon to be, fine and live, right?
This is not your fight. We gotta show these white people what for.
Yeah.
It's an old
race is an inescapable part of this equation.
Yeah, but Caesar does have black people around him.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. But after that, as time goes on, he's like, humans, you just can't hang out here. It's just untenable. You guys head to the moon.
It's in the fourth movie, in the very end of the movie, when Caesar is about to kill the governor. He's about to butt his head in with a rifle, or have his companions do it, or whatever, his army. The one guy, the aide to the governor, says... I understand your plight. I was a slave, or my people were slaves themselves, but you can't, do this because it'll create. I don't know, what was his reasoning? He was saying it was,
don't become like the monster
morally,
that you're trying to.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why he lets the governor live. And I think after that, this is how this plays into our fan theory: is that he was like, "I like you. Go to the moon." And we'll let you go to the moon and escape slavery.
Listen,
we're gonna enslave these white people.
We just present the theories. You guys make your own judgments, okay?
Well, because I think the ultimate dilemma that we came to, though, was whether when Zira and Cornelius went back in time, whether it was whether it changed the future or whether it just kind of
upped it a little bit.
Well, no, I'm saying it didn't even up it. What happened is that Aldo's followers decided to go over to the East Coast, and they just kind of got the timeline wrong.
Yeah, that's possible.
And then they were just kind of even worse to humans.
That's possible, which
Caesar's
I guess
troop were.
That would kind of be a third fan theory of ours then. That
Right.
Everything is it still plays out the way it's supposed to. It's just that we weren't told by the movies that there was a separation and a migration to New Jersey.
Like the victors wrote different histories for each tribe.
I have this fan theory about how the events are sped up from Planet of the Apes 3 to Planet of the Apes 5 and all that stuff. And my reasoning is this. So in the original timeline, there is this plague that kills all the cats and dogs and makes them have to train apes as pets, which basically become slaves. There is an uprising after 200 or so years of that. And then apes the dominant species, right? I think that the plague that killed the cats and dogs was present in apes, but in a different way, in a way that...
They were carriers, not...
Right, carriers not affected necessarily. And it might have... Well, the symptom might have been enhanced intelligence, very minutely. It might have been that spark, you know? And so them, Zira and Cornelius coming back in the third one might have brought that plague back to a society that wasn't prepared for it, and then again reintroduced this pathogen basically into maybe the air or something that negatively affects cats and dogs, but positively affects apes.
Well, because the fifth one does kind of end on a somewhat possibly positive note that like children,
Right.
human children and ape children are learning together and et cetera, et cetera.
That's the weirdest part of the fifth one is, it I think believes it started a new timeline because it hints at nothing of the first one.
But here's the thing, they're on different coasts without plane travel, so
That's true.
Maybe
Again,
both things are true.
Maybe both
humans
things are
and
true.
apes live in harmony on one coast. And
I think this is a good place to
another
segue
coast?
to the TV show because doesn't it take place in California?
Yeah, the TV show's crazy. Okay. It started out not too good, got a little bit interesting, and then ended not on the best note. There was like, how many episodes did I say there were? 16 or 17?
What time period is it supposed to be set in?
Well, that's also, I wrote that down, and it's a different time period. It's on the West Coast instead of in the New York area, and it kind of plays into the changed timeline. The timeline goes like this in the TV show. The two stars of the show are astronauts. They're two guys, and they went back. They went into space on a rescue mission again.
Wait, they were rescuing the rescue
again,
mission?
the rescuers. Yeah.
One-third of all NASA missions are rescue missions.
It may have not been that. I can't remember now. But at any rate, they go through the Hasline curve, and then they're from 1980. They're astronauts who left way after Taylor and Brent. In the first episode, they realize it's Earth. They find underground ruins that have books and dictionaries, and they're all in English and so on. And the other main character of the show is named Galen, who I don't know if they ever try and... I don't believe they ever mention him being related to Cornelius or to Caesar, but he's played by Roddy McDowall, and he also plays it a little bit different in the show than he does in the first movie and in the fourth movie where he's a different character. And his performance is again really good. You can see that the makeup is kind of... They're on a tight budget.
Even tighter than the fifth one, where it's like half of them were just wearing like gorilla masks.
Well, actually, no, probably more. I was actually surprised by like how often they changed the sets. I was impressed by that.
I want to interject here. This is a fun fact. John Landis, director of American Werewolf in London, was an extra on Battle for the Planet of the Apes. Derek.
Yeah.
Wait, and can I add that he was an asshole when referring to the guy who played Cornelius' son? He's like, yeah, I was like a servant to this little midget ape. And the guy who acted the character actually was a shorter person. He wasn't a kid. Like, he's supposed to be like a kid ape, but he was actually just a 20-something-year-old guy who was shorter of stature, and John Landis is kind of a dick.
I don't want to devolve into a conversation about John Landis, but in all of his interviews, he usually says something slightly dickish about
and
somebody.
Derogatory.
Yeah.
What is John Landis's connection to Star Wars while we're talking about this?
I'm
just kidding.
I was literally trying to think about it, and I was like, oh, he's making fun of me.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so the show. They're in the show, this is one of the first things that struck me about the show was that people talk, and that it takes place in the year 3085, which is really weird, it's like almost 1,000 years before the events of the movies, or the first movie.
The first movie, okay.
I guess that would make sense as to why people can talk. Maybe they've not been fully restricted in their like
or it's
developmental.
Possibly the new timeline.
Or it could be that though. Yeah, it's one of those, and every episode is kind of like the old Fugitive TV show where they need to get somewhere, and then some humans or some apes who are on their side help them do their little mission, and the whole time they're just trying to. Well, for the first half of the show, they're trying to find a city with computer components strong enough so that they can fix their ship and leave. But halfway through the show, I think they realize they can't do it, and they just abandon it. So the show goes off into a weird direction. But there's also, they show tons of animals in the show. Like there's sharks that eat people. Yes,
I want to hear about the sharks. Are they normal sharks, or are they like super sharks?
No, all the animals that you see are like normal. And this is why I mentioned this, because it has something to do with the cartoon. In the show, all the animals are normal, but in the cartoon, which takes place around the same time the movies do, there's like dragons and giant radioactive spiders.
Wait, dragons?
Yes, there's a dragon that fights a giant, like 20-story gorilla on the top of a mountain. It's crazy.
Wait, so it's not even like a Planet of the Apes gorilla, it's like a King Kong gorilla?
Yeah, it's a King Kong. Yeah, a dragon fights King Kong in the cartoon.
That's weird.
My God.
Well, okay. To move on, I'll just talk about the two main characters, I guess. They're actually really well written. They're very charming, and like there's good chemistry between them. And then the part played by Roddy McDowall is also like it's like a threesome kind of thing that ties in really well with the two characters. And he's someone who's a lot like the Cornelius character in the movie, except that he's a fugitive the entire time on the show too, which is kind of cool.
Oh.
He's always running from the law and trying to help these two humans, and sometimes they get humans to help him, sometimes they can actually get monkeys to help him. And they have like way more advanced, still primitive, but way more advanced technology too. Like humans build their own houses and they have their own villages that are separate from ape villages. Basically, the show is either the new timeline or it's just what was happening during the events of this. Because in the movie, the New Jersey area is closed off by the Forbidden Zone, so they could just be really
isolated.
Yeah. So they're not able to develop.
My headcanon is that's the new timeline.
Okay. I think it works. And in the end of the show, they row away on a boat, never to be seen again. It's really weird. I want to talk about the cartoon, but I would be talking for a long time. But it's like the most insane thing I've ever seen.
Did you say it was also kind of like boring though? Like it's crazy, but
super boring. And then out of nowhere, something will happen that I have to watch like 3 times in a row because it's so funny. The cartoon. This is when the cartoon takes place in 3978, and there's the McDonald guy. He's in the cartoon. The guy who played the guy in the 5th one does a voice for the cartoon. He's the other astronaut.
Okay.
In the cartoon, there's 3 astronauts again. There's also Zira. I'm sorry, not Zira. There's Zira and Cornelius, but there's also Nova. And then the bad guy in it is General Urko, who's from the 2nd one. He's the bad girl in the 2nd one.
Wait, how are Zira and Cornelius in the cartoon? Like, where is it?
Look, I don't know, because the cartoon has like jeeps and helicopters and major cities, but there's dragons and giant spiders too. And then there's a cult of monkeys that live in the Alps that worship a giant frozen gorilla who, when they need help from him, he breaks out of the ice and fights dragons for them, and then he refreezes himself. It's really hysterical.
Oh, okay.
And then
so they just weren't caring about continuity or
no.
Or
I think they
canon or
just
anything.
invented their own canon, which was actually kind of closer to the book, because I guess the book had major...
It was more futuristic.
Yeah. And the bad guy there's still Dr. Zaius, but he's so weird. He's constantly he's like, so how are those human friends you guys have? Are they doing well? Are they escaping? Wink, wink. He's like a good guy who's constantly checking up on Cornelius and Zira, making sure that they're like helping out their astronaut friends, because I guess it kind of helps his political career a little bit, because Urko's trying to usurp him a little bit and stage a coup, but I don't know, it's really weird. Everyone looks terrible and sounds terrible, and there's long pauses between words. Like in conversations, people would be like, I think we need to hike the mountain. Yeah, that's a good idea. All right, you two, let's start hiking. And then it goes into like a 5-minute montage of just walking. It's horrible.
Repeated animations.
Yeah. Oh my god, the animation's hilarious too. There was like really specific animations that appeared at least once an episode, where it was like clearly they had to write in this plot because they had the animation lying around, but it's such a specific thing that it doesn't fit at all. It'd be like they animated like a cliff collapsing, so they had to try and work that into every plot somehow. And it's like, how many times can we see a cliff throw rocks and knock people out?
Like,
the cliff's
from way back when just caused constant cliff collapse.
Yeah. So that's great. So I'm not going to go on longer about the show, but if anyone hasn't seen it, it's really hilarious. So the movies. We wanted to start a segment where if we think a movie is ragged on unfairly, we would do In Defense, and then we'd defend whatever movie we want to talk about. And I want to do an In Defense of Beneath the Planet of the Apes. I couldn't remember the title for a second.
You actually swayed me a little bit on this one, by the way. Because
Yeah,
I was against it. And
Yeah,
you...
we've swayed each other, because what you said makes me side with you a little bit. But here's what it is. The first one, I think you already know my opinion about the first one. We've already talked more at length about that one than all the other ones. The second one, here's the deal with the second one. The ones that I liked, I noticed had a kind of a pattern of using the story to represent a social issue at the time. Planet is about white man's hubris. We've already talked about that. But Beneath, I always thought was like about nuclear war and religion, the connection that they always seem to have. It's always, I mean, war has a connection to religion, but especially nuclear war seems to be like justified by religion in other movies and also in like, I feel like I heard President.
Well, because it's just such an extreme doomsday.
It's like we're gonna take like the whole world out if they don't agree with our ideals or our ideologies or whatever. I feel like I've heard a quote by Reagan, but maybe I'm misquoting him. That was basically like if God wants me to press the button, I'll do it. I'll press the goddamn button.
I don't know if he ever
And
said
that's
anything
religious.
like that, but I'm sure like he probably thought
it,
something like
yeah.
that.
But then I mean there was a part of his presidency where he was really afraid of nuclear war, so maybe something changed his mind. I think he saw one of those TV movies about nuclear war and he was like, oh shit,
Hide under
never
your
mind.
desks.
What was it called?
Yeah.
The Day After or something?
Yes, actually, I think that's exactly the
yeah.
movie he saw that freaked him out. But anyway, before that, he was all gung-ho about it. But the third one is kind of about animal cruelty and also about hubris again. The fourth one is obviously about slavery and civil rights. Yeah, like less about slavery, more about the modern civil rights movement that was happening.
What was that riot? I'm sorry.
The Watts riot?
Watts riot.
That happened either right before or right after the movie came out?
No,
was
it
it
was,
before
it
or
was
after?
a little while before.
Oh,
I think
it was?
It was about
okay.
like 8 years before.
Oh, that's right, because we were watching the documentary where everyone was saying, yeah, it was totally inspired by that, and the one producer was like, now I don't know if I don't believe the movies have any message. I just thought it was a good movie. I think everyone pretty much agreed.
That's not
We're
the-
just writing a story.
Wait, that's
It's
not
like,
the
you don't
head
know.
of Fox at the time, right? Who
I think
was
it
like
was.
the
Yes,
son
was,
of...
yeah.
Well, no, it was the head of... Was it Fox that did... No, it wasn't Fox back then.
I think Fox did. 20th Century Fox did Planet of the Apes, did it not?
Not back then. They didn't produce the original...
I feel like they did, but maybe I'm wrong. They could have put that in later
Wasn't
when
it
they
like
bought it.
Paramount or something? I don't know.
No.
Well, at any rate, that guy has produced a lot of good movies, so I mean, like,
But
he
he's
just
like
lucks
totally
into shit, I guess,
just
because
yeah,
he's oblivious.
He's totally oblivious. He's like, they didn't have any political message at all. What are you guys talking about?
It's pretty obvious there was, but yeah. And then the fifth one, the fifth one I find to be extremely boring and quite all over the place with its not just messages, but it's like oh, was it Fox?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess we just looked that up and it's Fox. But yeah, the fifth one is it meanders to the point of like not having really anything to say about anything. It's like they did them. I feel like when they did the movie, they're like, what's the natural progression of this story? Which is a good way to do a sequel, unless all the previous movies had their own separate messages, and they didn't. It seemed like they didn't want to do that. They were like, they're gonna fight these guys, and these guys will come in and fight those guys, and there'll be explosions, and we'll keep the camera tight on 3 characters so that you don't know that we couldn't get enough actors for a major battle. But
well, I mean, it basically did have the same exact plot
of the reboot?
Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
And I think that honestly, I think it did it in a slightly more entertaining way. Like I
agree. I don't know.
I felt like it was
I
at
hate the
least a
fifth
little
one
bit
so
more
much.
surprising. Like Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is just like I knew it was gonna happen beat by beat by beat.
Oh, you're saying that the fifth one's better than Dawn?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm really.
It was at least a little bit more surprising. Like I was a lot more surprised
And
when
it had-
Cornelius's son
It had
was
Paul,
killed by
Paul
Aldo.
Williams is a big
Oh,
major
Paul Williams, yes. I love
component
Paul
of my
Williams.
enjoyment of the movie.
And wait, who else? There was another big actor because I love Paul Williams, but there was someone else in that we were really surprised was in it who plays like the narrator at the end, like the teacher guy.
Oh my fucking god, John Huston.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
For some
it was
reason.
John Huston.
Is that right?
Yeah.
The director guy who's usually not an actor.
Yeah, Angelica Houston and Danny Houston's dad.
Oh, that's weird. I never put that together. Yeah, so he narrates the beginning and the end of that movie, and they also, again, they start doing weird timeline things in the fifth one, where they set up that there is like a whole, not a cult, but like a belief system and schooling that's like focused on the teachings of Cornelius. What was the statue?
Caesar.
The statue was Caesar, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Not Cornelius.
And he kind of looks like hopeful or sad depending on how you look at it.
He
It's
might
kinda
be
like
crying.
the Mona Lisa of
Yeah.
chimp statues.
Because it's tearing up, right? Which is
Yeah.
also something I had never noticed before. But
Yeah.
a tear comes out of the statue.
But it's
at
like
the
he's
end.
either like crying with joy
'Cause they're
for,
getting
like, the
along,
hope,
maybe?
or he's like kind of just pessimistic and thinking that it's only going to be inevitable that they start fighting again.
So when I was a kid, I'd seen this movie called Dick Tracy with Warren
God.
Beatty. Then he directed it, and there's this
What?
part.
Yeah.
There's this part of the movie where they dump a guy in cement, like they dump him in a tank of cement and let him harden.
Yes.
And from that point on, when I saw a movie and there was a statue of cement, I thought it was a person covered in cement. And so when the statue cried, when I first saw that movie, I was like, no, Caesar's trapped in this statue.
You grew up in New Orleans. Did you think like Robert E. Lee or like
mummified remains
well,
were
Jackson
trapped
was like
in
riding in a horse?
the
And
statue.
he
You
was
know,
covered
I
in
didn't
cement.
actually, it didn't even occur to me that there were statues in New Orleans because I was just like not paying attention until I was a kid. And the only other piece of concrete that I saw was at my school, there was this like 3x3 concrete slab on the ground, and there was a legend that it was the buried corpse of the founder of the school was under there. It was a secret grave.
All schools got a legend like that.
Exactly. But so whenever I saw someone encased in concrete, I thought they were actually in the concrete.
Like Han Solo, like carbonite.
Right, exactly. The same exact idea. Like concrete is my real life carbonite.
What if Star Wars, or I should say, Empire
We did it.
Strikes Back-
We brought it back.
I didn't even mean to do that. I was gonna say, what if it ended?
No,
with,
she did it.
Yeah.
You did?
Han Solo and carbonite.
Well, I was gonna say, what if it ended with like a slow zoom in on the carbonite body, and a single tear comes out of Han Solo's eye.
That would be cool.
But yeah, so I hate the fifth one, and but I don't hate the second one. You guys don't like it as much. And
I liked it. I definitely thought like the whole mutants thing was cool and weird. Like I liked that.
Listening to your criticisms, I actually agree, and it's made me not so much like it less, but not want to show others. This is actually, if there's one guilty pleasure I have, it might be the second Planet of the Apes. But the reason that I like it, well, the reason that I originally thought that it needed to be defended was because it does fit in with, like, well, in my mind, it fits in with each movie having a message of some kind. Mm-hmm. It does have a kind of an overly specific message, which I think ruins the grandness of the idea of Planet of the Apes, but the Vietnam stuff kind of makes it really weird and dated. But it talks about, like, religion and nuclear war and how people, I don't know, they making decisions based on cultish beliefs, I guess, is something.
Well, and then,
that,
like, Charlton Heston, he's basically just like, I don't like this, so I'm gonna kill everyone. Like,
I
he's
kinda
nah.
I can't tell. I used to love that ending, and now I can't tell if I like it or not. But because I think just hearing the story of why that ended that way, of him just being like, I want to fucking blow it up. I don't care.
It does seem like a very like Charlton Heston-esque character decision, I guess. Like he's a very like, I don't know.
He's the man who makes he has the final word in the end.
Yeah, it's like he's the authoritarian, like.
He's the man now, dog.
Exactly.
He's the M. Night Shyamalan. If M. Night Shyamalan was an actor in the 60s instead of a director now, because right after Planet of the Apes, he did the Omega Man, which had a twist ending, and then he did Soylent Green, which had a famous twist ending, and he was obsessed with that shit for a while.
Yeah.
I just had to bring that up. I don't know if you guys are aware.
Not to mention the twist in the Ten Commandments.
Yeah, where it turns out that
God did it.
Yeah, okay. So, this is the other thing that ties the good ones together in my mind. All the ones that I feel entertained by, I feel like there's this weirdness about them, or this bizarreness that's like the movie opens on like a stark image of something, or like it immediately throws you into a strange world that like things are upside down and it's crazy. And all the first 4 movies do that really well, I think. And the fifth one doesn't really. It doesn't have anything that's
it's
like
not really
too
good
weird
at world
about
building
it.
or like atmosphere.
That's the word.
Yes.
It doesn't have a good atmosphere.
No.
All the other movies build this crazy specific atmosphere to their movie, and it's always really weird and crazy and unique. Yeah. And the first one, you get that from the minute that monkeys show up and are carrying guns and throwing nets over people. It's suddenly everything is upside down and it's great. And the second one does that with the introduction of I guess you don't know they're mutants yet, but when you see Taylor in the beginning disappear, it's like the valley or the Forbidden Zone suddenly does have a weird, mysterious, like, ghost quality thing happening to it. So you don't. It's like a big mystery about like what's causing this, and it turns out there's mutants, and so it throws a lot of weird shit out there, which I do enjoy. The third one, even though the third one is more down to earth, literally opens with a spacecraft crashing in the ocean, and then the military meeting the spacecraft, thinking because it's one of their own, they're like, "Welcome to Earth, boys," and then they take off their masks. Oh, it's monkeys, and then the credits start, and it's like Roddy McDowell, and it has this like really comedic opening.
Yeah, it was
out
like
of the blue,
it was almost like sitcom-y.
It was,
like,
which somehow I would hate in anything else, but it's like so perfect.
No, it was like I love movies that like during the course of the movie they have two totally opposite tones and they manage to pull it off, and that one did it perfectly.
It's a really nice transition. And
how charming are Roddy McDowell and Kim Hunter?
They're amazing. They're
I think
great.
maybe that's why it's so good, is because I think more than any of the other movies, maybe they really tried to write really strong characters, I guess. It was like they focused more on the characters than the plot-driven stuff.
Anyway, what will our audience know Kim Hunter from? I'm trying to remember. She was in Streetcar Named Desire. She was.
Oh yeah, crazy.
Blanche.
She's Stella. Oh no, she's Blanche.
Stella.
Stella.
Is she Stella?
She's Stella.
Oh my god, that's
Stella.
crazy.
I confused the two. I'm gonna disagree.
Okay. Well, it goes against a little bit your theory of why what makes a good Planet of the Apes movie.
I'm actually just going to disagree based on your criteria.
Okay.
So the problem that I have with the second movie as a world builder is it doesn't build a world, it changes an existing world.
I would not say it changes.
Well, you have the Planet of the Apes world.
I'm not even really
create.
that. Well, I was gonna say I don't want to put emphasis on the world building thing because I don't think that's the important part, even though it does do that. I think it introduces a weird element. That's it. That's the enjoyment. Yeah,
I understand.
That's
that
why
idea.
I label it now as a guilty pleasure instead of what I was pushing for it before.
Okay.
But keep going. What were you saying?
Well, what I was saying was it's a movie that adds an element to another movie that you're like, well, where the hell was this during all of that? You know what I mean? Like, because they start off.
They were in the Forbidden Zone
But
where you're
here's this,
forbidden
too.
to go
No,
from.
but they start in the Forbidden Zone. Their ship crashes in a lake in the Forbidden Zone.
But you see that when you see in the first one, there's a random lightning storm, and people are like, "This alien planet is so weird.
There's no
lightning
moon
and
or
there's
no
sun.
sun or something.
Oh,
like,
he mentions there's no moon.
there's
That
no
ties
moon.
into the fan theory we forgot to mention.
Oh, right.
You don't see a
It's
moon.
a secret moon base.
So
right.
that's why they sent them to the moon, and then they
blew
strapped
it up!
rockets. They strapped rockets to the moon and left the solar system.
So the black people left the moon and blew it up?
No,
they
the
took
black
it with
people
them.
took the moon away.
They gave them that as a separate planet, and they said, build a rocket.
Or did like the mutants just like, are they like white supremacist mutants who just blew up the moon?
We know the mutants aren't white supremacists because of Negron, alright?
But just is he
Turns
black
out he's not
or-
black, though. He's a banana. They're all plantains.
He's a condom person.
He's a condom person.
Why did they feel the need to have...
I like that.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying
masks?
is the mutants...
Oh,
no.
yeah.
Why did the mutants, who are all condom people,
That's what I'm saying.
decide
To
one of
wear-
them had to have a black
Well, 'cause-
mask? You know what I mean? So
I
you've
see
got
what you're
the
saying.
white girl with the white
okay,
mask,
because-
and
okay.
all the other
No, here's the
masks
thing,
are
okay,
white.
no,
He
what
took a
it-
DNA test, and he was like, holy shit, I'm African American.
No, what it
I
was
better
is that the people who survived
accommodate
the
that.
nuclear holocaust in New York were all stage and film people, and they did like makeup and stuff, and so they made these costumes right after the shit went down, and their skins got all burnt,
there you go.
and so
And
they've
they
just been
found 'em.
passing down these costumes through the generations.
Yeah.
I think.
Wow, what great latex that lasts 2,000 years.
Yes.
Anyway, maybe they found it from some other rescue mission that NASA sent out. 2/3 of all NASA missions are rescue missions.
What if we, so they're taking black masks with them in case they land on a planet that's run by black people?
No, in
Well,
case
yeah,
they land on the future moon.
Yes,
On the future
yes,
moon,
yes.
yeah.
It was to infiltrate
the
the,
original-
moon people.
Oh,
Anyway,
my God,
we're
right.
way
trying to get it back.
we're way too on this. Anyway, I want to talk about what I thought about these movies.
Okay.
And I want to preface this by saying about the 3 newer movies. The way I feel about how bad the 2001 Planet of the Apes was with the great concept of the 1968 Planet of the Apes, I feel the opposite way about Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and Battle for the Planet of the Apes.
Okay.
I think Dawn of the Planet of the Apes was infinitely better than Battle for the Planet of the Apes. because I can watch Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and its big action scenes and not fall asleep. And I fell asleep during the big battle scene at Planet of the Apes. Which I went into this thinking like, oh yeah, I remember really liking this one. Fell asleep, poorly structured, poorly paced, not enough going on, and all the explosions were just kind of bleh. Whereas in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, there are these cute little moments, they're humanizing little things.
Now here's
unpopular as you might say that is, that's my position on it. I found it highly enjoyable. And right from the get-go, I was hooked from that very first opening scene.
I'm gonna actually argue the exact opposite point, because that's the thing. I liked the Rise of the Planet of the Apes, the reboot, because I was like, this is a different take. This is interesting. It has a lot more science behind it. I love Andy Serkis and his performance. He's really making me feel for this CGI character. Like, I'm all into this. But then, and I agree with Derek, that the sequels of the original Planet of the Apes were good because they all brought in a new element and a new tone and interesting little tidbits and just weird crap, you know, like, and I felt that Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, it was like, the second I went into that movie, I was just like, oh yeah, it's gonna be Caesar, and he wants to be kind of nice to the humans, but just be away from them, but then a human's gonna do something stupid, and then there's gonna be a mean ape who does something stupid, and then they end up getting in this stupid, and it was just like, I knew everything that was going to happen, and none of the characters really developed, and they were all very kind of cardboardy. They were all very kind of...
Me and Daniel had the same argument, and that's
like,
how I felt.
Yeah, it was just like way too
predictable.
predictable, and I didn't think the characters had that much depth, and I don't think... The one character I really do like, Caesar, I don't think he really changed at all that much. Like, I think he just kind of...
Okay, so what I'm going to say about that is, at least in this one... They set up competent character motivations for at very least the apes. Aldo's position in Battle for the Planet of the Apes makes infinitely less sense than Koba's position in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which has been set up over the course of the two movies.
Well, what I'm saying is that it's like, it makes almost like, I guess, this is going to sound dumb, but it makes like too much sense. It's like you know what direction the film is going to go in. You know, there's no surprises. There's nothing. It's like, oh yeah, they hate humans, so they're going to try and start a fight with humans. Okay.
Well, this is kind of funny. Me and Dan were in the car one time and we were talking about. I was saying that I thought it was cliche, and he was like, "What's cliche about it?" And I couldn't come up with an example that other movies had done that was the same. But I was like, "But this was because I saw every aspect coming." So either it's cliche, or they're giving like too many hints away about what's going to happen. I described a whole fake movie that fits the same plot. You even agreed though that it was like a spot on.
No, there's like a million movies like this, and I can't think of any of them.
It was like there's the two guys, they're friends, and they're fighting oppression. But then one of them starts getting a little radical, and he becomes terroristic. And he's like, what did I name them in the movie? I called one of them Lucius, and the other one was like William or something. He's like, William, you've gone too far. And he's like, you're just a sympathizer, Lucius. And then in the end, they boot him from the community, and he's walking away in the rain with his tail between his legs, and he's like, oh, now I'll get you again. Lucius, mark my words. Your human-loving days are over.
It's like Magneto and Xavier.
That's probably, yes.
Yeah.
That's probably an example that I would use.
Or like, I mean, like, to go back to the race thing, it's like,
okay, well, are you telling me you have a problem with the Xavier-Magneto dynamic?
No, I don't. No, because,
I think after the first X-Men, or the second X-Men, maybe.
Well, no, because,
I mean... worn out. And that was, like, 2002.
I can prove to you that it wasn't worn out by the success of X-Men First Class.
Here's the thing, is that in a real-life context, with these characters that we already kind of know and are familiar with and all that kind of stuff, it's not really... I mean, it's, like, because it's so specific. Like, if you're going to go with that trope, you have to make it so specific that it's different. This one is just, like, it's...
It follows it, like, by the numbers, so...
Yes. It was like a paint by numbers movie.
Exactly.
Like, there's nothing unique that brought today. It's like, these
classic...
two people are on different sides, and they're both nice guys, but they have, like, extremists on both sides who are going to cause a conflict, but the two leaders of each side are really nice dudes, but they can't make peace because there's, like, stupid people in their factions.
But that is such a great message. It expresses the hopelessness of peace. It expresses this idea that it doesn't matter how right you are or how right the other side is or how much you both want to work together, because of these divisions across these artificial lines from these ignorant people, we cannot work together.
But it's not
and
an
it's a
artificial
message.
line. I mean,
It
number
is
one,
an artificial line.
Koba was like literally like tortured by humans. Like, so it's not an artificial line. Like, it's a very real line. And Gary Oldman lost his entire family. Although Gary Oldman's motivation, I can understand why the apes are angry. I can't understand why Gary Oldman is blaming apes for a virus. It's not like the apes were going around murdering people. It said it was a virus.
I want to point this
He's not
out.
aware of any
I'm not going to let that point lie. Koba's motivation was very poignant and very accurate to what
that's
he
what I
experienced.
said.
Right. But all the other apes that followed him were not tortured and experimented on by humans. You can't say that. Right? You can say that they weren't the dominant species, but not every ape that lives in the
I'm
Asian
going to
community is
actually,
from the ape.
you know what though? Any gorilla or chimpanzee or bonobo or any of those that are on the North American continent have been captured and kidnapped by human beings. So
his
yes,
original,
they were.
Or
his
rescued
tribe,
from poachers.
Well,
No, but
his
they were
tribe-
originally, the poachers were humans.
Yeah, his original
So
tribe.
they were all originally hurt by humans.
I'm just saying.
His tribe was all the gorillas in that zoo, and in the first Planet of the Apes reboot, you see how they were, or at least you see how he, was it him? One of the apes you see, brutally hunted down and like shot with darts and shit like that, and they're in a zoo. So you assume, and then that zoo guy is crooked, the manager of the zoo. Or,
No.
So
You
he-
never.
His son
No.
was a jerk. No, his
That
son
wasn't
was a
the
jerk.
zoo. That
No,
was
it
a
was a
sanctuary.
Yes, it was a sanctuary, but they
but
tortured
they're
the
saying,
monkeys
they made
there.
a point of saying that even in sanctuaries, they're poor conditions.
Well, and
so
even if they're
everyone-
rescued by a nice person, they were still originally kidnapped from their families by a bad human.
Fine.
Okay.
Y'all
I'm not even
disenjoy the
using
movie
this
as
as
much
why-
as
But
you
okay,
want.
so the apes do have a strong motivation for doing what
And
they're
the
gonna
human
do.
strong motivation is that everyone that they love is dead and their civilization is ruined,
But
and
they're
they don't
smart
trust.
enough to know that it's not because of the apes. Like, we created the virus. They
they're-
should be
that's
mad
the
at
thing.
themselves.
They are not smart enough to know that, and they don't know that they created the virus. They just know of something called simian flu.
Well, okay.
That's all. That's all they know.
I understand why, like with avian flu or swine flu, I get why you'd be, like, afraid of pigs or whatever because of swine flu. I don't get why you'd hate pigs because of swine flu.
If the pigs were walking and talking and being like, "We want this amount of land. We don't care about your people
they were
that
just
died."
saying, like, wait, what?
You know what I mean? Like
They didn't say that. They were just like, we're gonna live in the forest. Like,
I know,
you guys
but that's
live
the
in city.
perception. It's the movie demonstrates this idea of losing power and other people gaining power. And it's not that they want to take the power. It's just that the powers are shifting.
I'm just saying it doesn't
and
make
they are
any
uncomfortable
sense for
with that.
people to hate apes because of a virus. It's not like the apes like slaughtered people or anything.
Well,
like,
there was that huge attack in San Francisco.
but
on
that
the
was just
bridge.
them trying to
Except
get
for
to the
the first-
forest.
yeah.
They were just trying to escape.
You think that the media spun that story as these apes are just trying to escape?
Well, did they kill any innocent people,
Well, they
or
could
were
show
they
us
just
that
killing
media
people who were
spinning,
shooting
too.
at them?
Again, we know what the true story is, but the characters in the movie
I'm saying-
don't.
No, but they clearly ran to the forest and then they stayed in the forest.
Okay.
I'm just saying the humans were dumb and had no motivation to hate.
I
Apes.
disagree.
I mean, maybe the fear of something different, I guess, but, like, they could have, like, maybe there was, like, maybe Koba could have had, like, a gang of chimps that would do, like, guerrilla attacks.
Guerrilla warfare.
Nice. Guerrilla warfare.
But, like, they would do guerrilla attacks on the humans.
Isn't
or
that a
whatever.
joke from those movies? Someone makes a joke about like, oh no, it's guerrilla warfare.
They might, and if it'd be any one of those movies, it'd be the second one.
Yeah, fair enough.
But, like,
Probably be.
if they'd had Koba do something like that to make the humans not trust the apes, that would have been way better than just, we hate you because you had a virus. Like, that's not really the apes' fault that they had a virus. They
I
carried a
think
virus.
Dawn of the Planet of the Apes did better what Battle for the Planet of the Apes tried to do, and I think that Rise of the Planet of the Apes, while good, did not do what Conquest was trying to do as well as Conquest did. I think Conquest was a much better film than Rise.
Well, that's the thing. I think the first 4 Planet of the Apes are better than both the reboots, but I think that the first reboot was better than the sequel.
You're saying that Rise was better than Dawn,
Yes,
not
Rise was better than
Okay.
Dawn, not the
because
Tim Burton.
Planet of the
Yeah,
Apes
there's-
2001 is the epitome of wasted effort.
Yeah, it's one thing we've all
And such a
agreed
great
on. I think is
cast.
that
I
one.
love. Did you
is
know? I think
worst.
Tim Roth turned down the role of Snape, player of the Snapes. He turned down the role of Snape in order to be in that stupid movie. And he
Wow.
could
Okay.
have been Snape. Although I love
That's
Alan Rickman as Snape. I
crazy.
don't.
So anyway, I have a challenge to the listeners, which is, without looking it up, if you have seen the 2001 Planet of the Apes, what is the plot? and name any of the characters besides General Thade.
Yeah.
So that's my
What's
challenge.
Mark Wahlberg called?
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't
The other
matter.
thing
No
I'm gonna
one
say.
knows.
The other thing I'm gonna say
It's
is
called Mark Wahlberg.
the difference in budget. So we ran some numbers, and the budget adjusted for inflation, by today's standards, for the original Planet of the Apes movie would be about $40 million. The budget for the 2001 Planet of the Apes movie was $100 million.
Yeah.
So over double the budget, less than half the quality. In any case, back to my thoughts on the originals. You know, the first one I think is a 5-star movie. I think it's perfect. You know,
that's what we should do. We should all.
It's such a perfect movie that it can have what you perceive as flaws that you just forget.
Yeah,
you let it
not
go.
important.
Should we bother?
Just
I
let it
wrote
go.
down when we were talking about all the plot holes of all of them. I wrote them all down. Should we bother?
I don't think
All
we
right,
bother
skip
right
it.
now. Beneath the Planet of the Apes, I was sour on. I have warmed up to it. It's a fun movie. It was fun to watch.
It was delightfully
I
weird.
don't-
It's delightfully weird.
It is
Perfect,
delightfully weird. I wouldn't-
description of that.
If I'm giving the first movie 5 stars, I would give the second one between 2
We don't
and
want to hear
3
your
stars.
star system.
Oh yeah, I have an infamous star system where I'm kind of a 5-star.
He's a 5-star whore.
Whore.
Like, he just gives 5
Well, I don't-
stars out to everyone.
Hold on. Look, I don't charge for it, okay? I just give it up because I like to.
Oh, it's a 5-star
Right.
slut.
Right. Thank you for the distinction. Anyway, so yeah, I like to give 5 stars for movies a lot because I like movies. But
No,
anyway,
there's
don't
anything
do-
wrong with that. We're not slut shaming
the
or
real-
I think
whore shaming.
our problem was that we thought your star system was conflicting with itself sometimes.
It was.
But
It was-
just giving something 5 stars is fine.
one day I'll read some of my movies that I gave 5 stars. But you'll probably hear me say a lot of the time that I gave something 5 stars, and a lot of the time that's sarcastic. The thing I'm really tight with is giving a movie 1 star. I am very selective in what I give it 1 star.
Yeah.
That's probably good. I guess.
Because everything
I'm
generally has a
less-
redeemable quality.
I should be more.
There was just some movies that you gave like 5 stars, and then other movies you gave 4 stars. Like
Like I gave Blade 2 stars, but I gave Blade 3 like 4
No,
stars
it was like
or something.
Indiana Jones.
I don't know.
You thought
That
that
would
you
be-
didn't like The Last Crusade as much as you liked Raiders of the Lost
Oh,
Ark,
not at
so
all.
you gave it like 4 stars or 3 stars or something, and then you gave like a really crappy movie like 5 stars.
Yeah, like I gave Avengers 5
Yeah,
stars.
and
Because
it's
a lot of it was like.
and The Last Crusade was definitely better than
I mean,
most of the movies you
I'm
gave
not
5
gonna
stars.
say you're wrong, but I am gonna say it was a different time. But anyway, in terms of the third movie, Escape from the Planet of the Apes, I love that movie. That is, again, a great movie. It's fun to watch. I could watch it multiple times. I would put it on just on an afternoon if I wanted to, or I would sit in the dark and watch it while I ate my dinner or whatever. If they played it back in theaters, I would go see it. I think it's great. Same with Conquest. I love that speech at the end, and I love all the performances. I love Ricardo Montalban in that movie. Fifth one, I used to really like, and as much as I love Paul Williams and how
Couldn't
weird
redeem it.
he is, I just
He's
couldn't.
such a cute little orangutan.
There's not enough to maintain that movie to me anymore.
Yeah. I still like it better than Dawn of the
But
Planet
so,
of the Apes,
what
sorry.
are your tell me about what you think of the.
Okay,
the
my
first five.
rating is I like 1, 4, 3, 2, 5. I like the
I have
first
the
one the
exact
best.
same one.
I like the
exact
first
Very
one
close.
the best. I like the fourth one the second best. I like the third one the third best. Then second, fourth, and then fifth last. Although again, I don't think the second and the fifth were bad necessarily. I just don't think that they were as strong as the other ones.
Yeah, as much as I complain about the fifth one, I would never want to leave it out of like a collection. If I ever buy
Yeah.
these like on Blu-ray or whatever, if I get like a box set, I wouldn't want to be like, I don't want the fifth one. I'll just buy the first 4. I would buy the fifth one.
That is a weird kind of element that the fourth one it's so incomplete by the end. Like there is this feeling where you want to know what happens next.
And yeah,
It's
They
just
jump
that
too far ahead.
It's not even that they jump too far ahead. It's just they jump to the wrong square.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
Well, no, but like I think it ends on a really hopeful note that like for some reason Zira and Cornelius going back in time and being progressive and like kind
Right.
was able to change the timeline to
Start the
where
movement.
humans and apes might coexist and there won't.
Yeah.
I want you to think about it like this. A movie series should be like a game of tic-tac-toe, right? Where you're trying to win and all the elements of movie making that make it difficult are trying to make you lose, right? That's all your focus grouping, that's all your studio interference or whatever. that sometimes can force you in a position where you win by your opponent's fault, but sometimes you just get suckered. What I think is you had your X's to win, and then the fifth one just was an O in the wrong spot, an X in the wrong spot. You know what I mean? It was the wrong square, and it fell apart. That's what I think.
That's in concept-wise or story-wise, I actually think it was pretty good. I think it was just an execution. They might not have had enough money.
Right, because the story was Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. That's why it was a good story idea. It was because it's the same one.
Well, no, because actually it's not. No, the elements that I like are not the elements that they carried over to Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. The elements that I really liked was that, I don't know, you got to see what... Because we often talk about, like, the oppressed person becoming the oppressor. And this is about the oppressed person trying not to become the oppressor and, like, trying to walk that fine line over, like, we have to keep them from oppressing us again, but we don't want to, like, squish them too bad.
Yeah,
and then,
the story is now they have the power, and now we see what they do with it, I guess.
Yeah, that the oppressed can get power and maybe steer things towards a better way.
That is an interesting point I hadn't considered. That one key difference in which Caesar is the king of the world, kind of, in Battle for the Planet of the Apes, but in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, he's the king of the apes on that one island. That is an important distinction, and I hadn't considered that.
So I want to mention real quick what I liked about the fourth one, because I don't know if I went too deep into that one, but my favorite opening of any of the Planet of the Apes is the fourth one, where it just opens on this weird futuristic city, not like the skyline, but kind of like in the middle of some square. It was like so-and-so 1991, the
like
distant
San
future,
Francisco
something like that. Yeah, or maybe you just said 1991, and immediately I was like, ooh, and the 1991. Oh my god. Distant future, but in the past. Okay, going back to the reason I like Planet of the Apes movies and them being bizarre, this one has the most bizarre opening of, like, seeing all these enslaved apes that can't talk but walk upright, and, like, they're waiters, they're dropping drinks, and people are beating them with newspapers, and they're shining shoes, and it's like, the music is really good too. It's got this, like, kind of crazy circus beat thing, or I don't really know how to describe it. And it's just kind of like a 5-minute scene of, like, introducing you into this world that you're about to watch the story unfold into. And it's a really great way to establish what you're about to see. With no dialogue at all, you know exactly what's happening. And it's my favorite opening of the 5. If I'm going to rate the movies or rank them, it's very similar to Maddie's. It would go Planet of the Apes 1, then 3 and 4 I like almost equally. It's very hard for me to put those in two different grades, so I'm going to say 1, 3, 4, and then 2, and then 5. And then I hate the Tim Burton one, and I pretty much hate the reboots, but I can give them more credit than the Tim Burton one. But I guess I like the one with James Franco a little bit more, but not by a lot.
I haven't looked up the trailer or anything for War for the Planet of the Apes, the newest one that's coming out. But
no, yeah, I've seen the teaser or whatever.
Whenever it comes out, I guess we'll watch that and do an addendum review or something.
Sure. I guess I'd be willing to state my full opinion on the newer ones. It would take me so long to explain, and I've already talked too much, so I don't want to get too deep into those. But
all right, guys, thanks for listening to our first episode, and we hope you tune in next time to Cinema Ding Dong.
I can't find my fucking notes. I'm sorry, you guys.
Is it in a different document?
No, it's all one. That's the problem. It's because I put it all in one paragraph. 10 pages is the same paragraph. Look at this. Like, I don't even know what this is. Cornelius farts.